The night my husband auctioned me off for $1, I learned exactly how little he thought I was worth. The ballroom laughed. Not everyone, but enough. Enough to make the sound stick to my skin. I sat there at table 12 with my hands folded so tightly in my lap, my knuckles ached under the linen. Crystal glasses shimmered under the chandelier light. Silverware gleamed. Somebody at the next table was still smiling when I turned my head. Smiling like this was just another little society joke, something harmless, something clever. My husband, Charles, stood on the stage with a microphone in one hand and the auction gavel in the other, wearing that navy tuxedo he loved because it made him look slimmer in photographs. He was 68 then. Still handsome in the way wealthy men can stay handsome long after kindness leaves their face. He'd already had too much bourbon. I knew it by the color in his cheeks, by the looseness in his grin, by the way his voice had gotten louder with every applause break. The gala was for St. Catherine Children's Hospital, one of those polished charity nights where rich people spend half the evening pretending generosity and performance are the same thing. I had helped with the seating chart that morning, fixed a mess caused by 3 last-minute cancellations, called the hotel twice, tracked down dietary requests, made sure the gift bags got delivered. No one in that ballroom knew that. Or if they did, it didn't matter. Charles tapped the microphone and smiled out at the room. "Well," he said, "we've auctioned off golf weekends, wine tastings, and vacation homes. I guess the only thing left is what I've been trying to get rid of for years." A few people laughed, polite at first, confused. Then he pointed straight at me, my old wife. That did it. The laughter spread wider this time, hotter, ougere. I felt it crawl up my neck. Charles kept going, enjoying himself now. "Come on," he said. 35 years. Surely somebody here wants her. She's housebroken. She can host a dinner party better than any event planner in Charlotte, and she can still stretch a pot roast like it's 1987. More laughter. I looked around the room and saw everything I would remember later in pieces. A woman covering her mouth, a younger man staring hard at his water glass, my friend Carol at the far table, frozen. 2 couples grinning because they were relieved the cruelty wasn't aimed at them. Then Charles lifted the gavel and said, "Bright as day. Let's start the bidding at $1. $1 for my wife." That was the moment something inside me went still. Not broken. Not yet. Still. Because humiliation like that does not come out of nowhere. It comes from rehearsal, from practice, from years of letting one person take up all the air while yours gets thinner and thinner until one day he forgets you are even human. I didn't stand. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my drink in his face. I just sat there in my navy silk dress and felt 35 years rearrange themselves in my chest. And then, from the very back of the ballroom, a man's voice cut through the laughter. 5 million. Everything stopped. Not faded, not softened. Stopped. Chairs creaked. A fork hit a plate somewhere to my left. Even the waiters seemed to freeze. I turned toward the back of the room. A tall man with silver hair was rising slowly from his chair. Black tuxedo, white pocket square. No smile. He didn't lift a paddle, didn't play to the room, didn't glance at anyone for permission. He looked straight at the stage and said it again, calm and clear. $5 million. And when Charles's face drained white under the lights, I realized something even stranger. I knew that voice. I had not seen William Carter in almost 15 years, and the look on his face told me this was no joke at all. What I did not know yet was why he had stood up for me, or what he knew about my marriage that I had spent years trying not to see. William Carter did not sit back down. He stayed standing, calm, still, like he had all the time in the world. The room shifted around him. You could feel it. People turning in their chairs, whispering. trying to figure out if this was still part of the show or something else entirely. Charles cleared his throat into the microphone. Too loud. Too fast. "Well," he said, forcing a laugh that didn't land, "that's generous, Bill. Real generous. But I think my wife might be a little overpriced tonight." A few weak chuckles. Thin, nervous. William didn't smile. "No," he said, steady. "She's been undervalued for years. That landed. You could feel it settle over the room like weight." Charles blinked. Once. Twice. His hand tightened around the gavel. I had seen that look before. The one he used when a deal slipped sideways, when something he thought he controlled stopped behaving. He glanced toward the foundation director, then back at the crowd, looking for backup. No one gave it to him. I felt something strange in my chest. Not relief. Not yet. Recognition. William stepped forward one slow pace, not dramatic, just enough that people made space without realizing they were doing it. "I'll clarify," he said. "That's not a bid." A ripple moved through the crowd. "It's a pledge," he continued. $5 million to St. Catherine's, in her name. My breath caught. In her name. Charles lowered the microphone a fraction. "Now hold on," he said, voice tightening. "That's not how this works." William's eyes flicked to him. Brief, direct. "That's exactly how it works," he said. "If the board agrees to 2 conditions." Now the director stood. Daniel Price. Early 50s. Careful man. Always measured. "What conditions?" he asked. William didn't rush. "First," he said, "a public statement tonight. Clear, direct. That what just happened was not entertainment." Silence. "Second," he added, "the Caregiver Scholarship Fund gets renamed. After her." A woman near the front gasped softly. I didn't move. I couldn't. My hands were still in my lap, my body still in that same chair, but inside something was breaking open in slow, quiet pieces. Charles let out a sharp breath. "This is ridiculous," he snapped, forgetting the microphone was still on. "You don't get to hijack my event and turn it into—" "Your event?" William cut in, not raising his voice. "Is that what this is?" A few heads turned. Charles realized it then. The mic, the room, the shift. Too late. He forced another smile, thinner now. "Everyone, let's move on. We've got a Napa lot coming up next." "No," Daniel said. That stopped everything again. Daniel stepped forward, his voice steady but different now, less polished, more real. "We're not moving on," he said. Charles stared at him. "You heard him," Daniel continued, "and you heard what happened here. We need to address it. For the first time in 35 years, I watched my husband lose control of a room. Not slowly, all at once. People weren't looking at him anymore. They were looking at me. And that was worse." I pushed my chair back. The sound of the legs scraping the floor was louder than it should have been. Every head turned. I stood. My knees felt unsteady, but I stood. Someone whispered my name. Soft. Careful. "Evelyn." I didn't look at them. I smoothed the front of my dress. Habit. Reflex. Something to hold on to. Then I turned and started walking. Not toward the stage, toward the exit. No one stopped me. Behind me, I heard Charles say my name. Sharp now. Controlled panic underneath. "Evelyn, sit down." I kept walking. The doors opened. Cool air hit my face. And for the first time that night, I could breathe. But I didn't know yet that the real confrontation wasn't over. It was just waiting for me in the hallway. The hallway smelled like lemon polish and fresh flowers. Too clean, too quiet. My heels clicked against the marble floor, sharp and fast, like they didn't belong to me. I could still hear the ballroom behind those heavy doors, muffled voices, a low hum, not laughter anymore, something tighter, something uneasy. I didn't stop walking until I reached the corner near the restrooms. Then I did. My hand went to the wall. Cool surface. Steady. My breathing wasn't. In. Out. Too fast. I closed my eyes for a second. Just one. And everything came rushing in at once. Not the stage. Not the laughter. The years. Me at the kitchen table stuffing envelopes for his first fundraiser. Me learning donor names like they were family. Me standing beside him in photographs, smiling while people thanked him for work I had done quietly in the background. Me explaining him, over and over. He's stressed. He didn't mean it. That's just how he jokes. I opened my eyes. No more. The restroom door opened behind me. Soft footsteps. Evelyn? I turned. Carol stood there. Late 60s. Sensible shoes. Always kind. The kind of woman who remembers birthdays and brings the right dish to every dinner. Her face looked shaken. "Oh, honey," she said, stepping closer. "Are you all right?" I almost said yes. The word sat right there. Ready. Habit. Instead, I shook my head. No. It came out rough. Honest. Carol nodded, like that was the right answer. She handed me a damp paper towel without asking. I didn't remember when I'd started crying, but my cheeks were wet. "You don't have to go back in there," she said quietly. "I know." We stood there a second, just breathing. Then she lowered her voice. "People saw it, Evelyn. They know." I looked at her. "They always saw parts of it," I said. "They just didn't have to say it out loud." Carol didn't argue. That told me everything. My phone buzzed in my clutch. I didn't need to look. I knew. It buzzed again and again. I pulled it out. Charles. Calling. Then a message. "Where are you? Don't be dramatic." I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered. Then I locked it and dropped it back into my bag. Carol watched me do it. Something shifted in her expression. Respect. Maybe. "Do you want me to call Lauren?" she asked. That hit harder than anything else that night. My daughter. Her instinct was to think of me. His had been to sell me. "No," I said. "Not yet." The doors to the ballroom opened down the hall. Voices spilled out. Lower now. Sharpened. A young staff member passed by with a tray. He glanced at me, then looked away quickly, like he didn't know where to put his eyes. I straightened, wiped my face. "I should go," I said. Carol touched my arm. Light. Careful. "You don't owe anyone anything in that room," she said. I nodded. I knew that. I just hadn't lived like it. Not yet. I turned toward the exit. Halfway down the hall, I heard it. My name. Sharp. Evelyn. I stopped, closed my eyes for half a second, then turned. Charles was coming toward me fast, bow tie loose, face flushed, jaw tight. He slowed when he got close, like he remembered where he was. "What the hell are you doing?" he said under his breath. I looked at him. Really looked. Not the man I married, the man he had become. "I'm leaving," I said. His eyes flicked down the hall, checking who might be watching. "You can't leave right now," he said. "People are already talking. That whole thing back there got out of hand. I need you to come back in. Sit down. We'll smooth it over. Sit down." Like I was a place setting. Like I was part of the table. "No," I said. His jaw tightened. "Don't do this," he snapped. "Do what? Humiliate me further." There it was, clean, clear. Not "are you okay?" Not "I'm sorry." Him. Always him. Before I could answer, another voice stepped in behind him. "She isn't humiliating you." Charles turned. I didn't have to. I knew who it was. William stood there. Closer now. Calm. Solid. "You handled that on your own," he said. And for the first time that night, I saw something I had never seen in my husband before. Uncertainty. Real. and it was just the beginning. Charles let out a short laugh. Not real, not relaxed, sharp. "For God's sake, Bill," he said, "you're blowing this out of proportion." It was a joke. William didn't move. Didn't blink. "No," he said. It wasn't. Silence stretched between them. You could hear the distant clink of glassware from the ballroom, a door closing somewhere down the hall, the low hum of hotel air conditioning, normal sounds. In a moment, that wasn't normal anymore. Charles shifted his weight. His hand went to his jacket like he needed something to hold on to. "You don't get to lecture me about my marriage," he said, voice tightening. William's eyes stayed on him. "When you put your wife on display in front of 200 people," he said, calm and even, "it stops being just your marriage." That landed hard. Charles looked at me then. Not really at me, at the role I usually played, the one who fixed things, the one who smoothed it over, the one who made him look better. "Evelyn," he said, softer now, almost coaxing, "tell him this is ridiculous." I felt it. That pull. 35 years of instinct. Say something. Make it easier. Protect him. I didn't. I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see my husband. I saw a man who had been standing on my silence for years and calling it stability. "No," I said. "Just that. No explanation. No cushion." His face changed. Not dramatically, but enough. A flicker, like something slipped under the surface. William turned slightly toward me. His voice softened. "I'm sorry you were put through that," he said. "Not honey, not sweetheart, Mrs. Brooks. Respect at a distance. It mattered." "Thank you," I said. Charles exhaled, frustrated now. "This is absurd," he muttered. "We're standing in a hallway turning this into a spectacle." "It already was a spectacle," William said. That shut him up. For a second. Then the ballroom doors opened again. Daniel stepped out. Carol behind him. A few others lingered near the doorway, pretending not to watch. Daniel walked toward us with careful steps, his expression controlled but not detached anymore. "Evelyn," he said, stopping a few feet away, "before you leave, I want to say how sorry we are. What happened in there, that shouldn't have happened." Charles let out a breath. "Daniel, let's not—" Daniel didn't even look at him. "We need to address it," he said. Then he turned back to me. "William has made a significant pledge," he added, "but it comes with conditions." I nodded slightly. "I heard." Charles scoffed under his breath. "Of course you did." I ignored him. Daniel continued, "The board is prepared to accept those terms." That caught Charles off guard. "What?" he snapped. Daniel finally looked at him. $5 million changes things, he said simply. That was the truth of it. Not pretty, but real. William spoke again. "It's not about the money." Charles let out a humorless laugh. "It's always about the money." "No," William said. "Tonight it's about accountability." The word hung there. Heavy. Unavoidable. I felt something shift inside me again. Clearer now. Stronger. For years, everything had been explained away, softened, minimized. Tonight there was no place left to hide it. Charles looked between the three of us, calculating, cornered. "This is getting out of hand," he said. "We can handle this privately." William shook his head once. "You already chose public. That was it. That was the line." I took a breath. Deep, steady. "I'm leaving," I said again. This time, no one argued. Not Daniel, not Carol, not even Charles. I reached for my wrap on the bench beside me. The fabric felt heavier than it should have. Or maybe I was just more aware now. As I stepped past William, he inclined his head slightly. Not possessive, not performative, just acknowledgement. As I passed Charles, he didn't touch me, didn't try to stop me. He just stood there. For once. Without a script. Without control. I walked toward the glass doors at the end of the hall, each step louder than the last, and just before I pushed them open, I heard him say my name again. Not sharp this time, not commanding, uncertain. Evelyn. I didn't turn around. The night air hit my face the second I stepped outside. Cool, damp, real. It smelled like rain and exhaust and something faintly sweet from the flower beds lining the hotel entrance. The valet stand was busy, engines idling, doors opening and closing, people talking in low voices that stopped just a little when I passed. I walked past them anyway, head up, back straight. I didn't rush. I didn't hide. A young valet stepped forward, polite, careful. "Ma'am, do you need your car?" "Yes," I said, handing him the ticket. My fingers were steady now. That surprised me. I moved to the side under a brass light fixture. The glow was warm, soft. It made everything look calmer than it was. Behind the glass doors, I could still see the lobby. People moving, some glancing toward the ballroom, some pretending not to. My phone buzzed again. I didn't need to check. I already knew. Charles. Again. Then a text. "Where are you? We need to talk before people start talking." I almost laughed. Before people start talking? I looked up at my reflection in the glass. People were already talking. They just weren't saying it to his face. Not yet. Footsteps behind me. I didn't turn right away. I knew the rhythm of them. I had known it for 35 years. Evelyn. Closer now. Tighter. I turned slowly. Charles stood a few feet away, just inside the doorway. The chandelier light behind him made his face look pale, washed out, smaller somehow. His jacket was unbuttoned, his tie loose. The careful version of him was gone. "What are you doing out here?" he asked. Not angry this time, not fully, but strained. "I told you," I said. "I'm leaving." He glanced past me toward the valet area, then back at the lobby, always checking who might see. "You can't just walk out," he said. "Do you have any idea what this looks like?" I held his gaze. "Yes," I said. He frowned, then stopped making it worse. Worse. I let that sit between us, then I asked quietly, "Worse for who?" He didn't answer right away. That was answer enough. A car pulled up behind me. Headlights washed over the pavement. The valet jogged toward it. Charles stepped closer, lowering his voice. "That man made a scene," he said. "And now the board is panicking. I need you to come back in, sit down, smile, and let this settle." Smile. That word. I felt something in me go cold. "You need me," I said, "to fix it." He exhaled. "I need you not to escalate it." I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. His jaw tightened again. "You're overreacting." There it was. The old script. I watched him carefully. "Say it again," I said. "What? Call it an overreaction again." He blinked. "Evelyn, don't start." "Say it," I repeated. Something shifted in his eyes. Just a little. Like he wasn't sure where the conversation was going anymore. "That was a joke that got out of hand," he said. "People will forget about it by next week if we don't keep feeding it." I nodded once. Slow. Measured. "So that's the plan," I said. "Wait it out. Let it pass." "That's how these things work," he said quickly. "You know that." I did. I had lived that. For years. Every small cut. Every dismissive comment. Every moment I made smaller so he could stay comfortable. I took a step closer. Not aggressive. Just enough. "No," I said quietly. "That's how it used to work." He stilled. I could see it. That moment. The one where he realized something had changed and he didn't understand how to get it back. "I'm not coming back in there," I said. "Evelyn, I'm not smoothing this over," I continued. "I'm not explaining you to people. I'm not pretending this was nothing." His mouth opened. closed. For once, he didn't have the next line ready. The valet pulled my car around. The headlights cut across us. Bright. Clear. I stepped past him. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Home," I said. "And then what?" I paused, hand on the door handle. For a second, I didn't know the answer. Then I did. Then I start figuring out what my life actually looks like without pretending, I said. I got in the car, closed the door, and for the first time that night, I didn't look back. I drove home with both hands tight on the wheel. The road blurred in and out of focus. Streetlights stretched into long lines. My chest felt hollow and too full at the same time. I kept the radio off. I didn't want noise. I didn't want distraction. I needed to hear my own thoughts for once. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked exactly the same. That almost made me angry. The porch light was on. The azaleas were blooming along the walkway, pale pink under the soft glow. Through the kitchen window, I could see the small lamp by the coffee maker, the same one I had turned on before we left for the gala, like nothing had shifted, like the world hadn't just cracked open in front of 200 people. I sat in the car for a moment, engine off, hands still on the wheel, breathing. Then I got out. The front door clicked open the same way it always had. The kitchen smelled faintly like lemon soap and chicken salad. I had made it earlier that afternoon, planned for Sunday lunch, planned for a life that, hours ago, still made sense to me. I set my clutch on the counter, kicked off my heels. The silence pressed in. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Instead, I poured a glass of water and drank it standing there in my stockings, one hand braced on the sink. My reflection stared back at me in the dark window. Same face, same lines. But something underneath had changed. Stripped. Clear. At 12 minutes past 11, the front porch camera pinged my phone. Motion detected. I picked it up. Headlights. A car pulling in behind mine. I didn't have to check again. Lauren. When I opened the door, she was already halfway up the walk. Jeans, loafers, a sweatshirt thrown over what looked like pajamas, keys still in her hand. She took one look at me and stopped. "Mom." That was it. Just that. I stepped forward and let her hold me. Really hold me. I didn't fix my face. Didn't soften it for her. Didn't make it easier. We stayed like that for a long moment. Then we went inside. The kitchen felt different with her there. Less hollow. Still quiet, but steadier. I started the coffee maker without asking. Habit. Something to do with my hands. Lauren watched me. Not hovering, not pushing. Just present. "Carol called," she said finally. And then Janice texted me asking if I'd heard. Of course she had. News like that didn't stay contained. "I'm guessing it was bad," Lauren added. I let out a small breath. "That depends," I said, "on how you define bad." She raised an eyebrow slightly. "Did he apologize?" "No." She nodded, not surprised. "What did he say?" I picked up 2 mugs, set them on the counter. He told me not to humiliate him further. Lauren let out a short laugh. Not amused. Sharp. Of course he did. The coffee started to drip. Slow. Steady. We stood there listening to it. "I kept thinking," I said quietly, "that if I just stayed steady, everything would settle. That it was a phase. That success changes people. That pressure does things." Lauren leaned against the counter. "Mom," she said gently, "pressure doesn't make someone cruel." I closed my eyes for a second. There it was again. Clear. Unavoidable. "I know," I said. We sat at the table. Same table where I had packed school lunches, paid bills, helped with homework, signed birthday cards. So much life had passed over that wood. Tonight, it felt like something else. A line. My phone buzzed again. I turned it over this time. 7 missed calls. 3 texts. "Where are you? We need to talk." This has gotten out of proportion. not one asking if I was okay. Lauren didn't need to see the screen. "Damage control," she said. I nodded. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I wrapped my hands around the mug. Warm, grounding. "Tonight?" I said. "Nothing." She waited. "And tomorrow?" I looked at her, felt something settle into place. "Tomorrow," I said slowly, "I called Janice." Lauren's eyes sharpened. "The CPA?" "Yes." I took a breath. "I've signed things for years," I said. "Documents, forms, trust papers. I never really looked. I trusted him to handle it." Lauren didn't interrupt. "That stops now," I added. She nodded once. Firm. "Good." I leaned back slightly. For the first time that night, I didn't feel like I was reacting. I felt like I was choosing. And I didn't know yet what I was going to find, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to look away this time. At 12:07 in the morning, headlights swept across the living room wall. Lauren and I both looked up. Neither of us moved. The engine cut. A car door slammed harder than it needed to. Then another. Footsteps. Fast. Uneven. I set my mug down in the sink. Lauren stayed where she was, leaning against the counter, arms crossed now. Not defensive, grounded. The front door opened. Charles didn't come in quietly. He never did when he was upset. His shoes hit the hardwood, sharp and quick. The sound moved through the house before he did. Then he appeared in the kitchen doorway, jacket gone, tie hanging loose around his neck, face still flushed from earlier. "There you are," he said. Like I had wandered off. Like this was a misunderstanding. I turned, drying my hands on a dish towel. "I live here," I said. Lauren didn't say anything. She didn't leave either. That mattered more than anything she could have said. Charles noticed. His eyes flicked to her, irritation rising. "Lauren, I need to talk to your mother." "She's not going anywhere," Lauren said evenly. "This is between me and my wife." "And I'm her daughter," she replied. "If you didn't want me here, maybe don't humiliate her in front of 200 people. That landed. Not deep, not yet, but enough to shift him. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once across the kitchen like he needed movement to think. "This is exactly what I mean," he said. "Everything gets turned into something bigger than it is." It was a joke that went sideways. I watched him. "Say it again," I said. He stopped. "What? Call it a joke again?" His jaw tightened. "Evelyn, don't start." "No," I said, quieter now. "Say it clearly. You stood on a stage and auctioned your wife for $1. Say that was a joke." Silence. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere outside, a car passed. Real life kept moving. He hesitated. Just for a second. Then he said it. It was a joke. Lauren let out a short breath behind me. Almost a laugh, but there was nothing funny in it. "Wow," she said under her breath. Charles turned on her. "Don't." "No," she shot back. "You don't get to control this anymore." I stepped slightly between them. Not dramatic. Just enough. "Lauren," I said, "it's okay. It wasn't. But I needed this moment to be mine." She searched my face, then nodded once and stepped back. Still there. Still present. Charles looked at me again, recalculating. I could see it happening. Charm, deflection, partial apology. He tried one. "Look," he said, softer now. "I shouldn't have said it like that. I had a couple drinks. The room was loose. I was trying to keep things moving. I raised my hand. Small. Enough." "Stop explaining it," I said. "I'm not explaining, I'm—" "You are," I cut in. "You're explaining it in a way that keeps you comfortable." That hit. He blinked. "I'm asking you something simple," I continued. "Do you understand what you did?" He exhaled, frustrated. "Yes." "I embarrassed you." "No," I said. "You revealed yourself." That stopped him. Completely. I didn't raise my voice, didn't cry. I just stood there in the kitchen we had shared for decades and spoke without softening the truth. "You didn't accidentally humiliate me," I said. You said exactly what you've been thinking for years. Tonight just made it public." "That's not fair," he said quickly. "It is," I replied. "And you know it is." He shook his head, but there was less certainty in it now. "You're blowing this up." Lauren shifted slightly behind me. I didn't turn. "No," I said. "I've been shrinking it down for years. This is what it actually looks like." The words settled. Heavy, real. For the first time, he didn't argue right away. He just stood there, looking at me, really looking, and I could see it. Not guilt, not yet. Something else, uncertainty, and underneath that, fear. But I wasn't done. "I want you to move into the guest house." The words came out before I could second guess them. Clear, steady. Charles blinked. "What?" "For now," I said. "I need space." He stared at me like I had just said something irrational. "This is ridiculous," he said immediately. "We're not separating over one bad night." "No," I said calmly. "We're separating because that night showed me what this has actually been." He let out a short laugh, sharp and defensive. "You're overreacting." I didn't argue. I didn't need to. "I'll have your things moved tomorrow," I said. That stopped him. For a second, he looked at me like he didn't recognize the person standing in front of him. "Evelyn," he said, voice tightening, "you don't get to make that decision on your own." I held his gaze. I just did. Silence. Lauren shifted slightly behind me, not stepping in, just there. Charles looked between us, calculating, unsettled. "You're serious," he said. "Yes." Another silence. Longer this time. He ran his hand down his face, slower now, less anger, more confusion. "I've had a rough year," he said finally. There it was, another explanation. I didn't interrupt, didn't push, just let it sit there. "I know," I said. He looked up, surprised. "But pressure doesn't make people cruel," I added. Lauren exhaled quietly behind me. Charles didn't respond right away. He walked to the table and sat down heavily, like something in him had finally lost its balance. "I didn't think," he started, then stopped. "No," I said gently, "you didn't." That landed deeper than anything else. He stared at the table, at his hands. For once, he wasn't performing. "I don't know when it changed," he said after a moment, "when I started talking like that, thinking like that. I waited. He exhaled. Everything got bigger. The business, the people we were around, and somewhere in there," he hesitated. "You stayed the same. I felt that. Not as an insult, as a confession. And that bothered you," I said. He nodded slowly. "Yes." I leaned back slightly. "I wasn't standing still," I said quietly. "I was holding everything steady so you could move." He looked up at me then, really looked, and this time something in his face shifted. Recognition. Not full, not complete, but enough. "I didn't see it like that," he said. "I know," I replied. The kitchen was quiet again. The refrigerator hummed. The clock on the wall ticked. Time moving forward whether we were ready or not. He rubbed his hands together like he didn't know what to do with them. "What do you want me to say?" he asked. "That I'm sorry?" I held his gaze. "I'm not asking for words," I said. "Then what are you asking for?" I took a breath. Slow. Measured. For the truth. He frowned slightly. "What does that even mean?" "It means," I said, "no more versions that make you look better. No more smoothing things over. No more pretending this is something it isn't." He sat back. Processing. "And if I do that?" he asked. I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know. Not yet. "I don't know what comes next," I said honestly, "but I know what doesn't." He nodded once. Slow. Careful. "And the guest house?" he asked. "Yes." He looked toward the back window, the faint outline of the smaller building beyond the trees. Separate. Close. But not the same. He stood, Not angry this time, just unsettled. "I'll pack a few things tonight," he said. I didn't respond. He walked past me without touching me, without trying to stop me. Halfway to the stairs, he paused. "This isn't over," he said. I turned slightly. "No," I agreed, "it's just starting." And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I was ready to see it clearly. Janice arrived at 9 the next morning with a leather tote and a stack of folders that looked heavier than they should have been. I had already made coffee. 2 mugs, one for her, one for me. Lauren had stayed the night. She sat at the far end of the table, quiet, watchful, like she didn't want to miss anything. Janice set her things down carefully. No small talk, no easing into it. "All right," she said, pulling out her glasses. "We're going to go through everything. That word sat differently now. I nodded. "I want to understand," I said. "All of it." She looked at me over the top of her glasses. "Good," she said, "because you've signed a lot of things." That landed, not as an accusation, as fact. She opened the first folder. Bank accounts. Joint. Individual. Trust accounts I vaguely remembered hearing about but never really questioned. Janice spoke clearly, slow, precise. "This is your primary account," she said, sliding a page toward me. "This one is tied to your household expenses. You've been using it for years." I looked at the numbers. Recognized the pattern. Familiar. Safe. Then she flipped the page. "And this," she said, "is where things start to matter. Different account. Different structure. More money than I expected. Not shocking. But not simple either." "Why didn't I know about this?" I asked. Janice didn't soften it. "Because you didn't ask," she said. "And because he didn't volunteer." I sat back. Let that settle. Lauren didn't move. Didn't interrupt. Janice continued. Investment accounts, property holdings, partnership agreements. Each page another piece of a life I had been living without fully seeing. "You're listed here," she said, tapping one document. "Co-owner." I blinked. "Of what?" She slid it closer. "A commercial property. Downtown. Leased. Profitable." My name right there next to his. I stared at it. I've never seen this before. "I believe that," Janice said. There was no judgment in her voice, just clarity. We kept going. Insurance policies, beneficiary structures, charitable commitments, some reasonable, some not. "This one," she said, pausing, "is tied to the foundation." I leaned forward, recognized the name. St. Catherine. "Of course." 5-year pledge," she said. "Significant amount." "How much?" She hesitated for half a second. 7 figures. I let out a slow breath. "That was his decision," I said. Janice met my eyes. "It was both of yours," she said. "You signed it." There it was again. That quiet truth. I signed it. Without asking enough questions, without understanding the full picture. Because I trusted him. Because I thought that was what I was supposed to do. Lauren shifted slightly. "He counted on that," she said. I didn't answer. Because she was right. We moved into the second stack. More detailed now. More complex. Tax strategies. Trust structures. Layered. Intentional. "Nothing here is illegal," Janice said. "But some of it is. Designed." "Designed how?" I asked. "To keep things streamlined," she said. "Controlled. Managed through one person. Charles. Of course." I sat back again, my hands wrapped around the mug. The coffee had gone cold. "I don't know what I own," I said quietly. Janice didn't rush to fill the silence. "That's going to change," she said. I looked at her, felt something steady rise up beneath everything else. Fear, yes, but also something else. Clarity. "I don't want to just review this," I said. "I want to understand it." "You will," she said. Lauren leaned forward slightly. "Where do we start?" she asked. Janice smiled faintly. We already did. I looked down at the papers spread across the table. For the first time, they didn't feel overwhelming. They felt like a map. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't following someone else's directions. I was learning how to read it myself, but I still didn't know what I was going to find when I got to the end of it. The restaurant was the kind of place people kept going back to even after they could afford better. Dark wood, low lighting, quiet enough that conversations stayed at the table. Charles and I had eaten there years ago, back when everything felt like it was building toward something. Back when we still talked about plans instead of schedules. I arrived first. That was intentional. I wanted a few minutes without him shaping the air. I slid into a booth near the back, ordered iced tea, watched the door. When he walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. Not because he looked different, because something in him had shifted. The confidence he used to carry so easily was thinner now, like it didn't fit the same way. He spotted me, walked over, slid into the seat across from me. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. That was new. I nodded once. The waiter came. We ordered without really thinking. Salmon for me, steak for him, same as always. Then we were alone. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he leaned forward slightly. "I've been thinking," he said. "I hope so," I replied. He exhaled. "I've been going over that night, what I said, how it sounded." He paused. It was worse than I realized. "Yes," I said. "Simple. Direct." He flinched. "Not dramatic, but enough." "I owe you an apology," he said. I didn't respond. I had heard apologies before. Careful ones, smooth ones, designed to close the conversation. I waited. "I'm sorry," he said finally, "for humiliating you, for everything leading up to it. Better, but not enough." "What exactly are you sorry for?" I asked. He frowned slightly. I just said, "No," I said calmly. "You summarized. I want specifics." That stopped him. The waiter dropped off our drinks. Neither of us touched them. Charles leaned back, looked down at the table. For once, he didn't rush to fill the silence. Then he said something I had never heard him say before. "I've been disrespectful to you." I nodded slightly. "And?" I prompted. "And dismissive," he added, "for years." "Yes." He swallowed. "I made you feel small." That one landed differently because it was true. I didn't rush to fill the space after it. "Go on," I said. He looked up at me. No performance this time. Just uncomfortable honesty. "I took you for granted," he said. "Your work, what you did for me, for the house, for everything." I held his gaze. "You didn't just take it for granted," I said. "You erased it. That hit." He blinked. "I didn't think of it that way." "I know," I said. "That's part of the problem." Silence again. He sat there, absorbing it. Then something shifted. "I resented you," he said. That caught me off guard. "For what?" I asked. He hesitated, then said it. "For staying the same." I studied him. "Explain that." "You were steady," he said, "grounded. You didn't change when everything else did. And I." He exhaled, searching for the words. I felt like I was becoming something bigger, more important. And instead of seeing what you were doing to support that, I started seeing you as holding me back. There it was, ugly, honest. I let it sit there. "I wasn't holding you back," I said quietly. He nodded. "I know that now." "I was holding everything together," I added. He closed his eyes briefly. "I see that, do you?" I asked. He opened them again. "Yes." I leaned forward slightly. "Then say it properly." He met my eyes. "You weren't the problem," he said slowly. "I was." That was the first real sentence he had given me. Not polished, not defensive. Real. I nodded once. "Good," I said. "Now we can talk." The food arrived. We didn't touch it, because this conversation mattered more than anything on that table. And for the first time in a very long time, I wasn't trying to protect him from the truth. I was making sure he faced all of it. I'm not here to punish you. The words surprised even me. They came out steady, clear. Charles leaned forward slightly. Then what are you here for? I held his gaze. To decide what exists after this, I said. He nodded slowly. I want that, he said. I want us. I didn't answer right away, because that word didn't mean what it used to. There is no us right now, I said. That landed, not harsh, just true. There's what we were, I continued, and there's what we might become. Those are not the same thing. He sat back, took that in. What do you need? He asked. I had already thought about it. Not overnight, not suddenly. This had been building for years. Transparency, I said. He frowned slightly. About what? Everything, I replied. Accounts, properties, investments, documents, no more. I'll handle it. I handle it too now. He nodded, quick, almost eager. Okay. Not okay, I corrected. Real, complete. He hesitated, then nodded again. Complete. Second, I said, we go through everything with Janice and an independent attorney. He shifted at that. I already have. I know, I said. That's not the point. Silence. Then, all right. Third, I said, counseling. That hit him harder. He looked away for a second, then back at me. Fine. Not fine, I said. Necessary. He exhaled. Necessary, he repeated. Fourth, I continued, you step back. From what? Public roles, I said. Boards, events, anything that puts you in front of people as if nothing happened. His jaw tightened. That could affect it should, I said. He stopped. The truth in that sat heavy between us. And finally, I said, you make a public apology. He looked down at the table, realizing, not a statement, not a polished version, something real. That's a lot, he said quietly. I nodded. Yes. Silence again. Then he asked the question I knew was coming. And if I do all of that? I took a breath. Careful, honest. Then I'll watch what you do next, I said. Not what you say, what you do. He looked up, searching my face. And us? He asked. I didn't soften it. I'm not coming back to what we were, I said. He nodded slowly. I understand. I studied him. Do you? I asked. He held my gaze. I think I finally do. We sat there for a while after that, the food untouched, the room quiet around us. At the table near the window, an older couple laughed softly over dessert. A waiter moved past with practiced ease. Life went on, but something had shifted, not fixed, not repaired. Real. When the check came, he reached for it automatically. I placed my hand over it. I'll pay for mine, I said. He paused, looked at my hand, then at me. Slowly, he nodded. All right. It was a small thing, but it wasn't. We stood, walked out together, not touching, not pretending, just walking. Outside, the air felt cooler than it had that night at the Gala, clearer. As we reached the parking lot, he stopped. Evelyn, he said. I turned. I'm going to do this, he said. All of it. I believed that he thought he would. That didn't mean he would. I know, I said. He frowned slightly. That's it? I nodded. That's it. Because belief wasn't enough anymore. Proof was. I got into my car, closed the door, and as I drove away, I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. I wasn't waiting for him to change. I was already changing, and whatever happened next would be on my terms. The first real change didn't happen in a dramatic moment. It happened on a quiet Tuesday morning, Same kitchen, same table, different me. Sunlight came through the window over the sink, catching the edges of the papers spread in front of me. Janice sat across from me again, glasses low on her nose, pen moving steadily across her legal pad. I wasn't pretending to understand anymore. I was asking questions. All of them. What does this mean? Why is this structured this way? What happens if I don't agree to this? Janice answered every one. Slow, clear, patient. And for the first time in my adult life, I understood the architecture of my own life. Not the version I had been shown, the real one. Accounts, trusts, agreements. Some thoughtful, some careless. Some built on the quiet assumption that I would never look closely. I did now. And that changed everything. Charles followed through. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but consistently. He moved into the guest house the next day. No argument. That alone told me something had shifted. At night, I could see the light on through the trees, separate from the house, separate from me. Strange, but not wrong. He met with Janice, brought every document, not selectively, all of them. He started counseling. The first time he said it out loud, his voice carried hesitation. But he went, and he kept going. And then there was the apology. The first version he showed me was polished, careful, clean. I read it once, handed it back. "This is for your reputation," I said, "not for the truth." He didn't argue. The second version was different, shorter, rougher, honest. He named what he did, didn't hide behind humor, didn't blame the alcohol, didn't soften it. The foundation read part of it at their next event. People talked. Of course they did. But something shifted in the way they talked. Less scandal, more recognition. Because what happened that night wasn't rare. It was just usually quieter. I went back to the literacy center a few weeks later. The building looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I just saw it differently now. The paint was worn in places. Bulletin boards filled with notes. Handwritten. Careful. Real. Evelyn. I turned. Maria stood there, smiling like no time had passed. "I heard you might come back," she said. "I wasn't sure," I admitted. "Well," she said gently, "we never forgot what you did here. That landed. Not like praise, like truth. I hadn't been invisible. I had just been in the wrong place to be seen. I started slow. Meetings, letters, conversations, listening more than talking. And in that space, I wasn't someone's wife. I was myself." William and I met once. Coffee. Nothing formal. Morning light. Simple conversation. "I didn't step in to change your life," he said. "I know," I replied. "I stepped in because what happened was wrong. I know that too." He nodded. No expectations. No story beyond that. Just respect. And at this stage of life, that was enough. Months passed. Charles kept showing up. Not the same man. Not completely different either. Learning, adjusting, listening more, interrupting less. There were moments the old habits came back. Sharp. Familiar. But now I named them. And he heard them. One evening, he stood in the kitchen watching me cook. Simple dinner. Quiet. "I used to think the worst part of that night was how it made me look," he said. I didn't respond. "But it wasn't," he continued. "It was realizing someone else saw your value more clearly than I did." I set the knife down. "That's not quite right," I said. He frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "My value was always there," I said. "The problem wasn't that you couldn't see it." "What was the problem?" "You didn't respect it." He nodded slowly. "I'm learning," he said. "I know," I replied, and I did. We didn't go back to what we were. That version was gone. But something else began to take shape. Quieter, more honest, less polished, more real. Now, when I think about that night, I don't feel the same humiliation. I feel clarity. That moment didn't destroy my life. It revealed it, and it gave me something I hadn't realized I had lost: myself. If you've ever felt small in a room where you should have been seen, if you've ever stayed quiet to keep the peace, if you've ever trusted someone else to define your worth, take a moment. Look at your life. Ask the questions you've been avoiding, because silence is not peace, and respect is not something you earn by disappearing. It is something you claim, and it is never too late to start. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready for more stories like this, come back. Because sometimes the truth we hear in someone else's life is the one we've been avoiding in our own.